tea, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned it. Really good for the vocal cords or something. I don't know. Except it's cold tea, so maybe it's not. The lunch bell rings, signaling a return downstairs. Rin, you didn't finish your lunch again. I wasn't that hungry. If you don't eat more, you're gonna fade away. Rin shrugs as if this is an acceptable risk. Come on, we better get moving. 3 of us head downstairs together. The afternoon class passes. Once again, I find myself without a plan for something to do after school. So I head to the library to return a couple books I finished reading. Walking inside, I see that there's about as many students as there were on Tuesday, all the more evident from the almost total silence enveloping the room. Oh, fucking hell. As I drop the books I borrowed into the return slots in the counter, Yuko suddenly pops up from behind it, quite startled from the banging as they hit the trolley next to her. Oh, sorry, Yuko, I didn't mean to startle you. No, that's fine. It happens. A lot. I'm used to it by now. She had brain damage. Can I help you? It's okay. I think I know where everything is. Thanks anyway. Suppose I'll grab another book or two while I'm here. There's not much else to do, and after reading so much during my stay at the hospital, it's become a hard habit to break. I wander down to the fiction section towards the back of the library, scanning the bookshelves for anything that catches my eye. As I do, I look over to the Hanako corner, where Hanako had been last time I was here, not really expecting anything to come of it. There she is. Surprisingly, though, she's there, absorbed completely in a fairly thick book. I decide against intruding on her like last time and get back to finding some reading material. Why? You're friends now, bro. You can talk to her. After an indiscernible amount of time I spent pursuing the aisles, I finally decide on a couple of books to get and slide them onto the shelf. With a minimum of fuss, I quickly walk over to the counter and check my books, pop them into my bag as I walk out. By the time I leave the main building, sunset isn't too far away. A small trickle of students remain, but the majority have left, presumably to their homes and dorms. I guess I need to buy some supplies. I can't live off cafeteria food and eating out my entire life stay here. As I leave for the gate, I make a few loud stretches to try and stave off the tiredness that's accumulated over the week. It's Lily! After passing through rounding the corner, though, I see a solitary figure walking downhill towards the small town below. The color of her hair and the tapping of her cane is unmistakable. I quickly walk up to her, which seems to catch her attention without a word needing to be said. Hi, Lily. She takes a moment to place the voice, slightly adjusting her head to face a bit more towards the source of the voice as she does. This Hal? Yep, that's me. She seems to have a good memory for voices. The fact that she's already remembered it is a pleasant surprise. Well, yeah, I mean, you recognize faces and stuff like that, so she would have to recognize voices. It's kind of the same thing, right? Good evening. What brings you here? Once again, she gives a small, polite bow, and once again I reply in kind before realizing I needed to do so. Just going into town. You? My, what a coincidence. Doing the same thing, huh? I usually go shopping on Fridays. She pauses for a moment, suddenly looking a little lost. That said, Hanako usually comes into town with me. Not lost, but worried. The two seem to keep pretty close tabs on one another. It's kind of surprising that Hanako would just forget Lily like that. I noticed her reading in the library. She's probably got caught up in a book. She lets out a small sigh of relief. Thank you. She has a habit of doing that. Avid reader. Right. She doesn't seem to like being around crowds of people, so getting away from everyone lets her relax a bit. Although she probably didn't intend it, I can't help but grimace as I recall my first meeting with her. Hardly wanting to bring it up, I remain silent as we continue walking down the quiet road. Tack, 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 tack. With the road barefoot? What is that word? I'm assuming that's with a road full of cars and the students of Yamaku increasingly far behind us. The quiet rustling of leaves and the measured tapping of Lily's cane against the sidewalk are all that can be heard. It's kind of nice, especially compared to the hustle and bustle where I used to live. Before I know it, I'm relaxed so much that a loud yawn escapes before I can control it. Tired? Yeah, I've been running ragged these past few days. That's an understatement to be sure. Transferring into a school would be bad enough. Nothing like this. Well, hopefully everything should settle down for you. This festival's got everyone in a spin right now, and you've plopped right in the middle of things. For a moment I hesitate, but given her apparent tolerance for frankness, I decide to give my full thoughts. Yeah, I guess Yamako's different though. I mean, formality surrounding everything and isolation around it, not to mention the most obvious difference. It's kind of a whole different mindset. I suppose I'll get used to it though, in time. She gives a matter-of-fact nod, apparently pleased with my answer. Feels almost as if she's included me in the flock of students she's shepherding, along with Class 3-2 and Hanako. Well, not that I mind. It's nice to get thoughts off my chest in any case. Looking on the bright side, one could see it as a chance for a new beginning. You should cherish the ability to make new friends. It's optimistic. Nonetheless, it's good to have a positive attitude about such things, I suppose. I guess that's a good take on it. Whoa. I always hit my mouse wheel a little by accident. Walking down the road, she seems to become somewhat unsettled. Before I can ask her what's on her mind, she seems to collect herself and speak up about something else. So, where in town are you going? That's actually a pretty good question. I'd come down to buy food, but the layout of the place is still totally foreign to me. I had intended to just wander around to see what I could find, but with the sunset already approaching and nightfall not too far away, that doesn't seem very wise. I got to ask her for directions. Again. I was just hoping to get some food, but now that you mention it, I don't really know the way. Well now, this is quite lucky. I was just about to go to the convenience store myself. Looks like I'll be in your care once again. Then, thanks. Together we walk to the store. My pace is carefully slowed to remain beside her. Compared to my usual walking pace, hers is quite a bit slower. Not that it's without reason. After what couldn't be more than several minutes, I catch sight of our objective. This town really is pretty small. Without further ado, we make our way inside with a greeting from the counter. Mind if I tag along with you? Usually Hanako would help me, but seeing as if she's not here. Takes a moment before I realize what she means. Considering she wouldn't be able to read any of the labels, shopping without any help would be a big pain for her. That said, I can't shake the feeling that she had this idea since I was coming here. What? That said, I can't shake the feeling that she'd had this idea since I said I was coming here. Sure, it'd be my pleasure. I grab 2 well-used red baskets from the small stack beside the entrance, handing one to Lily. She lays it on the ground, putting her school bag in, retracting her cane and sliding it through the basket handles before picking it back up in her right hand. Wait, if she doesn't use her cane... Before I can complete the thought, she comes beside me and pinches the cuff of my uniform in her slender fingers. Is this all right? Sure. I have no reason not to accept. I can think of worse things than shopping with a pretty girl holding on to me, even if it is out of necessity. We navigate our way through the store, with not one of the occasional passing customers seeming to bat an eyelid. Considering how close Yamaku is, I guess seeing students from there must be entirely normal for the local residents. As we reach inside the aisle, I quickly check with Lily to find out what she needs. I grab it along what I'm looking for to put our items into their respective baskets. I guess this is the same routine she and Hanako follow every day. Right, all that's left is the bread, and that should be in my shopping done. Do you need anything else, Lily? No, this should be everything. Off we go then. With a quick side trip to the bakery section, we make our way to the registers. The line, thankfully, is almost non-existent. It's not long before we both paid for our food and are out the door. As Lily retrieves her cane and extends it to full length, I waste a minute looking upward at the night sky while holding both of our bags. For a moment, I try to make clouds with my breath, but the summer heat doesn't seem to cooperate. Eventually, she rights herself, taking a quick stretch before taking her bag and leaving me to my 2. You tired as well? Festival preparations have been complete chaos. Shizune breathing down my neck doesn't exactly help with things either. Hey, she's only trying to get everything organized. Better late now than never later, right? I suppose. I'm going to enjoy relaxing in town tomorrow, that's for certain. I guess the festival's preparations must be taking their toll on the both of them. We walk out into the quiet street, talking between ourselves as we carry bags with food supplies from the store. Wait, what's that? I notice a very distinctive figure making its way towards us, silhouetted by the street lamps. For a second, I think it's another male student from my class, but as he, or I should say she, gets closer, I recognize her quickly. It's Rin, of course it's Rin. Rin, what are you doing out here so late? Rin? Lily perked her head, looking as if she's trying to focus on listening more keenly. Suddenly comes to me that I should probably interpret the scene for her. It's Rin Tezuka, I think is her last name, from our school. She stiffens at the name, gives a complicated look and expression, something like a forced confusion of a composed smile and a painful cringe. Ah, I understand. I guess Lily knows Rin too. It's gonna be weird because I think both their voices are really similar with me. Rin turns to look at us, looking terribly out of it. I'm not entirely sure if she recognizes either of us, or that she doesn't acknowledge it if she does. She looks like a zombie, or a statue. Statue of a zombie. But slowly, some symptoms of understanding seem to light her dark eyes. It's something she must react to. Rin blinks once, very thoughtfully. Hello. There's an awkward pause. Everyone waiting for someone else to try to say something. What are you doing here this late? I was wondering that myself too, just now. Some people asked that just before. I assumed they were wondering the same. I didn't know. They didn't know either. I asked. That's why I'm wondering. So that's pretty much it. It's a murder mystery without a murder. They were going that way. She turns facing... She can't point her little arms. She turns facing her right in order to demonstrate the direction that the other people went, as if that was important, then rotates back like a mechanical puppet in one of those overly complicated clockworks. Was that even? I don't know. For a person who gives an impression of being the quiet type, Rin does use a lot of words to say things that don't need to be said. Unsure if she's finished, I say nothing. Neither does Lily, who seems to be equally robbed of words for the time being. I think that both of us are just scared of any response that might provoke her to continue. Our stupefied look of reaction doesn't faze Rin at all. She keeps looking at us expectantly, a calm hint of expression on her blank face. She seems to be that kind of person, always so relaxed, as if bull elephant grade sedatives were flowing in her veins in pace of blood. Do you have amnesia? I don't recall you having anything of the sort, though. No, I don't think it's that. The other passerby was probably just worried, though you do look really lost. The way you're standing in the middle of the street. Oh, I see. Maybe I should have taken some other kind of pose in that case. I ponder for a while whether I should chase this angle further or give up for the sake of my own sanity. I decide on the latter. It seems that most of the time it's better to not read too deeply into what Rin's babbling about. Talking with Rin is like playing chess with a supercomputer who does seemingly completely random moves as if to mock everything you know about chess. It's like that, except with human interaction. And even if I win, it feels like losing. Damn, it's just like Kenji said, even when I win, I lose. This is the power of the girls of Yamaku. I push the thoughts aside, it's too dangerous to consider further. It's probably just Kenji's anti-female propaganda getting to me after a moment of weakness. Yeah, maybe taking another pose might have worked. So, anyway, you have no idea what you're doing here? She frowns, looking extremely displeased at either my question, its consequences, or the answer she's about to give. I do have some idea. I can't really tell what kind of idea. It sounds like progress, at least. They're literally the same voice, I'm so fucked. Lily sounds as if she spotted an opening for some kind of discernibly normal conversation. I can't say I share her optimism. Yes, that is some, definitely. The rest will come later. I'm sure of it. I always have reasons. The ensuring silence kills the Lily's hopes all too visibly. It didn't last long. Rin's, as far as I can tell, unbased assurances aside, what should be done? You could just leave her to her own devices, whatever those are. It's late, and I don't really think we'll be getting any thanks if Rin is found standing here in the middle of the night. Which she probably will, unless she manages to remember what she was doing here in the first place. As for me, trying to guess what might have been on her mind when she decided to embark on this adventure, the chances seem to be on par with winning the lottery several times in a row. Lily is oddly quiet too. I appreciate some support from the sidelines here, especially if she's more familiar with Rin than I am. I don't think she is. But it can't be helped. It seems her familiarity with Rin is exactly why she's saying subdued. So, I assume you were going somewhere and not coming back to school? Any idea where? Her eyes widen in shock. She jolts back to She jolts back in a somewhat artificial way, making it seem like an act rehearsed for situations like this. Are you a mind reader? Is that your disability? How unique. No, why would you think that? You knew what I was doing. Her confused face. It was just an educated guess. We walked the same street in the other direction just before to get to the store. If you were going to school, we would have met you the other way. Oh. She looks a little disappointed. Like Kenji, Rin appears quick to jump to completely irrational conclusions. Maybe it's something in the water here. I have to make a mental note to stock up on soft drinks. You know, that is the second time this week someone's asked if I was a mind reader. Do I really give off that impression? Rin shrugs her shoulders, which is all the answer I get. You know, maybe you should come with us back to the school. Lily interjects, as if I'm just about to further debunk my alleged mind-reading capabilities. She sounds rather concerned, the paper-thin smile on her face badly disguising that fact. Maybe she came to the same conclusion I did. For everyone's sake, I decided to let the mind-reading topic drop, as it's entirely insane anyway. Inane. Yeah, Lily's right. If you can't remember, there's no point staying here. Rin considers this simple deduction for a moment, and nods. Okay. We start towards the school again, having wasted way more time than necessary with this episode. This episode's dragging on for really long. Rin walks along the edge of the sidewalk in her rhythmic way, looking like a mix of sleepwalker and rope dancer, while Lily keeps one hand on my shoulder, tapping the ground at her cane. Tap, step, step, tap, tap, step, step, step. Apart from that, few fragmented beginnings of the conversation, it's quiet. Quiet quite apart from the relaxing one in town at that. So how's the mural going? We are going to get bad luck. Never talk about works in progress. I'm sure it'll be wonderful. Bad luck. Tap, step, tap, step. She doesn't care about it. She doesn't care to talk about it. Lily's politeness feels out of place for the first time. Step, step, step. Sorry I'm hiccuping so bad right now. The hill Yamaku rests top of is surprisingly steep. Going uphill, we slow the pace, but I feel my pulse rising and breathing getting heavier. Almost there, I can see the gates already. More than that, though, I notice that Lily's hand is slightly tightened on my shoulder, interpreting it as a gesture that she wants to ask something. I speak up. Anything wrong, Lily? I resist the urge to say aside from our traveling companion, but only just. For a moment, she seems to debate whether or not she should even bring it up, but goes for it anyway. Is everything alright? Alright? How do you mean? In fact, I can't interpret her incredibly vague question. Puts her off for a second. It's just, you seem unusually tired, I guess. Now that she brings it up, I notice that my breathing is strangely heavy. The uphill walk has really done a job on me. Lily noticed it all too quickly. Wow. I was not expecting a response this early. Sorry I'm not in very good condition. I don't really want to talk about it.